In just a few short years, Jared Thomas went from balancing college studies and oval racing to being MX-5 Cup champion and the owners of one of the largest teams on the grid. I caught up with the 2022 champion and owner of JTR, Jared Thomas. On today's show, we have a very special guest, the 2022 Mazda Idemitsu MX-5 Cup champion, Jared Thomas. Jared, thanks for coming on the show today. How's it going?
Hey, thank you. It's been a pleasure. I'm always happy when people reach out to talk to me and we can talk about the JTR and the series. So super excited.
Yeah, it's the Cup Series is really a hidden gem, I find, in motorsports. Some of the best racing that I know I've ever seen. I can only imagine that it must be a ton of fun to be wheeling those cars around some of the tracks and just the close bumper to bumper racing. But before we really dive into the MX-5 Cup and that car, let's start right from the beginning. And what was it that got you into racing when you were younger? Have you always been doing this, or were there other sports that you were playing and then racing just kind of took over? Walk us through your motorsport story.
So yeah, it really we go way back on this one. It when I started, I was 5 when I started racing. Started racing karts here in Indiana. My dad had done a little bit of autocross and a few years of sports car racing and a VW Golf back in the late '90s. And when I turned 5, he wanted to get me involved, so he got me a kart for my 5th birthday, and we just started racing. And really, racing's been the only sport I've ever been a part of. I played soccer 1 year in high school with a bunch of my buddies, but really, racing's been the predominant, hobby, career, pastime for most of my life.
So you mentioned that you started off with karting there. I understand that you got into some super late model racing after some karting.
Yeah, so we raced karts for a long time. I think from when I was 5 till when I was 15, and we were looking for, as any young driver wants to make that jump to car racing, and we looked at Formula car, because that's every young kid's dream, is to go right into the Formula car ranks. But the fact of the matter is, it's ultra expensive to do that, and we didn't have the budget for it. So, being in the Midwest and a lot of circle track racing around us, we decided to try out pavement late models. So we got one of those cars and started racing it. We ran it for about 4 years. Um,
Okay.
and then those cars are fast, a lot of fun, but they're also a lot of work, and the maintenance and the time to uh, the upkeep on those cars is a lot. And I just went to college, and then midway through my freshman year of college, we're like, it's tough to get back home on the weekends and do all the work that we need to do on the car. So we ended up selling that, and for a few months there, we were kind of looking around like, what are we going to do next? Um, and I'd always known about Spec Miata,
Mhm.
an SCCA and NASA. We started watching some YouTube videos of the races online and thought, man, that looks like a lot of fun. So we got on Craigslist, uh, and found a car down in South Carolina. Went down and looked at it, drove it back, and then took it right into the garage and tore it apart, put a roll cage in it, and built a Spec Miata.
That's awesome. How many years did you race in Spec Miata then?
We ran Spec Miata for 3 years, I believe. I want to say we built that car in the summer of 2017, and then ran it. First year ran kind of regionally around the Midwest, and then the second and third year we started running the bigger uh, national level races, Hoosier Super Tours. And in 2019, that was really our year that we were going for it, and we ran really well all season. Qualified well a lot finished on the podium lot, got noticed by Mazda, and I was able to get nominated as an at-large bid to the Mazda shootout that year.
Yes, and before we get into that Mazda shootout, you mentioned that you were doing lots of this racing while also trying to balance college and all of the work that goes along with that. What was it that you were going to college for?
So I went to IUPUI in Indianapolis for motorsports engineering. So it's it's a Purdue. IUPUI is a joint effort of Indiana University and Purdue University of Indianapolis, and it's a pretty big school. And I was on the Purdue side, Purdue engineering degree, and it's a very similar program to mechanical engineering, but about the last 25% of your coursework is specific to motorsports, be it data acquisition, vehicle dynamics, aerodynamics. So that's what that was. It was a very tough degree, and the coursework was since it's not widely studied, you really kind of got to hit the books and really study it that way because there's not a whole lot of information online about that kind of stuff. So that was very time consuming and very tough. But you know, I did that, and I think it paired well with racing. I was always able to apply what I was learning in parallel at the same time with stuff I was doing uh, racing wise.
Yeah, and I think we can tie that in with the Mazda shootout and you said you were invited there. It was at the end of 2019, correct?
Yep, into 2019.
End of 2019, and you go in there and you impress, and you end up walking away with a pretty handsome check there that you can turn around and use for your first season of MX-5 Cup. So what sort of what did you have to do at the shootout? What sorts of of course there's a large on-track aspect, but there's also a lot of stuff that goes on off track dealing with engineers and setups. What were some of the things that you were doing over the course of that shootout, and then ultimately coming out of it, what did that really mean for you and your racing career?
Yeah, so the shootout, there's a lot that leads up to it. They usually nominate 30 to 40 drivers, and how they weed it down from there is they make you build a business proposal, and also have a little bit of a biography about yourself. So everybody builds that, sends it in, and a panel of judges go through it and narrowed it down to six. So once you get down to the six, at this time, this is how it was ran. It's very similar now. I was just at the shootout a couple weeks ago that they had, and they break it down into 2 days. The first day is all interviews. So there was a panel of, I believe, 5 or 6 judges, and you would go sit with them individually, one on one, and each judge had a different topic. One may be social media and marketing. One was chassis setup. One was business development, um, things like that. So for me, honestly, that was the toughest part of the shootout and how to prepare for that and all the different questions they were going to ask. Because the other thing that's going on is when Mazda picks a driver, you're becoming a brand ambassador for the brand. So knowing all of the phrases and things that Mazda, strives to be and where they are in the market and things like that and their lineup. You got to know all that as well. So that was a lot to study for. I'd say I was going. I was in my. That was the first semester of my senior year. I'm going to say I probably didn't get a whole lot of coursework done leading up to that. I spent a lot of time studying that, and and then the second day was all on track. They give you one set of tires for 4 sessions, and they judge you throughout. And they actually um, uh, relegated a few drivers throughout the day, so it ended up being head to head on the last session of the day,
Oh wow.
where we went out for a 45-minute run, not necessarily a race, but just a 45-minute run where you would go out and the other competitor did the exact same thing, and then at the end of that they picked the winner. So
So a pretty intense few days, and I guess most of the drivers, I guess they're not all super young, but I imagine most of the drivers that were there were all probably around the same age.
yeah, I think our age ranged from probably 18 to 24, I think.
Okay, yeah. So right bunched up together. So coming out of the shootout here, you make the jump to the MX-5 Cup in 2020 season, and you really put together a solid season, especially all things considered with how COVID and everything was going with the world. You come out with a win, some podiums, and rookie of the year, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
Yep, yep. So
So
yeah,
bring home. Sorry,
yeah.
go
I
ahead.
mean, the rookie of the year was that first season. We ran our own program, but we were teamed up with Michael Carter Racing Enterprises that first season. Um, so we were always doing all our own stuff, and in the back of my head was, do I want to start my own team and take on that endeavor? And at the time, I just graduated, so it kind of parlayed perfect into that, and I couldn't go get a job as a engineer because there's no way I was going to get the time off that I needed um,
True.
to go pursue this uh, racing career. And so we're like, okay, well, you know, we started thinking mid-season. All right, well, if we want to do this, let's start putting pieces in the places that we can, start off the next season as a team. And a big part of that was winning the Rookie of the Year because that was
Yep.
a $75,000 check that I was able to just turn around and put it right back into the business and kind of get me started.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the great things about the I guess the Mazda series is just being able to have that money you win the championship, you're going to cover x amount of a season or whatnot. The money can go directly back into it, and that's exactly what you did. You take that rookie of the year money and you go and you reinvest it in your team, and then fast forward now to 2022, and you're one of the largest teams that's fielding cars out on the grid. So what has the growth of JTR been like since that first season that you were running?
Yeah, it was extremely fast, and it's still growing way faster than I ever expected. Um, we started out in 2021 with myself and one customer car, and it didn't seem like it took long, man. We just started adding on cars, and I think by Laguna Seca that year, we were running 5 cars at a race.
Jeez.
So it's it's been a lot of hard work. I'll say that, and behind the scenes, what it takes to do that has been a lot of long nights, and I think the biggest thing is that we've assembled a great team as far as the personnel, and we you know I feel like we do a pretty good job at picking the guys on our crew. A lot of them are guys local to me or guys I've known for a long time, and um, you know they're not their motivation is they want to go and be successful and win. So that helps a lot when it comes to everything, and um, it's kind of been our formula, and it's been successful so far.
Yeah, it certainly has, especially this past season, the 2022 season. Let's talk about that a little bit. You talk about success. I mean, you started off the season with a bang. You came out of Daytona, leading the championship standings. And if my recollection is correct, I don't think you ever really relinquished that championship lead. But overall, the season was nothing. It was not just a smooth sailing season. There were definitely some ups and downs along the way. take us through your 2022 season a bit for us.
Yeah, we came out. Really, I would say the momentum started at the end of 21. Um, we had a tough 21 season. We had a lot of, I mean, if it could go wrong, it did. But we came out of Petit Le Mans in 21 with a second place and a win, and carried that right on into Daytona in 22, and um, won at Daytona, and then we won at St. Pete, and then we won at Mid Ohio three weekends in a row. So that was pretty cool. I to think back, I have not really had a streak like that. So that was really cool, and we just St. Pete and Mid Ohio are a little different racetracks compared to the rest of the tracks on the series schedule. They're more technical, not as draft reliant. So we really tried to capitalize on those two tracks, and I think we did a pretty good job. The rest of the tracks are pretty draft dependent, so you got to have help and you got to have a lot of luck. Um, and we went to Watkins Glen and had a good weekend there. I think we had a fifth and a third, so we were really happy with that. When it comes to the big drafting tracks, it's just like watching Talladega or Daytona
Yeah.
NASCAR. You know, our expectation is let's come out of this weekend with a couple top fives or a couple podiums. If you come out of there with that, you're doing really good. So
Yeah, your points racing, right?
yeah, and you mentioned we took the lead at Daytona, came out of Daytona with the lead, and never gave it up, and that became in itself very stressful, especially later in the season because we'd been leading it all year. Then we go into Road America, and that's really where we had our first weekend where things didn't go quite the way we wanted it. Um, Race one, we did not qualify as well as we should have, and got caught up in some carnage and got rear-ended, and that was just kind of the beginning of the end for that race. We ended up, I think, finishing like 26th or something like that race. And at that point, we had a pretty large points lead. So we're like, okay, well, that's our bad race. Let's get it out of the system and just uh, go back tomorrow. And we came back the next day, finished second at Road America, so that was a good redemption race. Then we go to VIR, um, and we tested there, and I felt really good about the car that we had there. It was really fast, really racy. Um, the first race, kind of the same thing. We didn't qualify. I mean, we qualified good. We qualified like sixth or something, but um, we got hit again in the first corner, the first lap, and ripped our bumper cover off, and kind of just it spiraled from there. And we didn't have a great race. I want to say we finished 16th. Um, we're like, all right, well, we've been down this road before. We did this at Road America. Let's come out the next day. I think we qualified fifth for the second race, um, and passing for third got clipped, and the left rear knocked our alignment out. And when that happened, a caution came out immediately after, not because of what the contact that I was involved in, but a different race and or a different wreck. So we come down pit road. I'm like, I'm talking to my team over the radio. Hey, the alignment's knocked out in the rear. Is there anything we can do to try to straighten it up? So they jack it up. They look at it, and they can see our paint marks where the centrics were for the rear camber adjustment and toe adjustment. So they just eyeballed it, put it back, and sent me on my way. And they're like, we did the best we could. We don't know what it's going to be like, but that's what you got. So we started from the tail. I think it was like 28th, and drove all the way from 28th to 4th, and set fastest lap on the way to doing that too. So that was really a season-saving race for us. Everybody wants to talk about what happened at Road Atlanta, but
Yeah.
that race right there was really the one that kept us alive. So coming into Road Atlanta, our points lead is shrunk now. I believe it's me, then back to Gresham Wagner, it's roughly 50 or 60 points. And
Yep.
then back to third was Connor Zilch, was like 100. And the second half of the season, Connor really came on strong.
Yeah, he did.
And so we come into Road Atlanta, place that we were really strong the year before. Um, race one, we end up fifth. We actually had a power steering failure, so that kind of hampered us a little bit. So to come out with a fifth, we were happy with that. Connor won, so it really narrowed it down to like 30 or 40 points.
Hmm.
And then the final race of the season, we my mindset was I'm just gonna go beat Zillich. I'm just gonna take it right to him. I'm gonna be all over him. Uh, whatever I can do, I'm gonna be in front of the 72 car. And we were on our way to that. Uh, had contact, and it was the lightest contact I've ever had that caused so much
Yeah.
problems. And actually, um, me and Matthew Dirks were side by side, and our spokes of the wheels touched just perfect, and just shot me up in the air. And,
Yeah.
backed it in the tire wall. I think that was with like something like
Oh,
17 or 18 minutes.
I watched the race back this morning, and it was with 12 minutes to go
12 minutes.
that incident happened. Yep.
So yeah, that I backed into the wall, hit a tire wall, but it just I hit it perfect where it messed up the rear of the car, but I was able to keep it running, keep it in gear, and I just dropped it back in the first gear and just uh, you know pulled out of it, got back on the track. I'm not exactly sure. You may know better than me exactly where we ended up. I want to say we ended up around 15th or 16th, something when I came back on track.
Yeah, somewhere I think I saw on the timing and scoring is strange because it kind of is delayed by the lap
Hmm.
on the broadcast. I think I saw 17th or 18th is what it was dropped back to. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was, you know, I'd been through the situations earlier in the year, be it VIR, where a lot of people, a lot of drivers get frustrated inside the car, and that can get the best of them. But I've always had been very even keeled in the car and try to keep my emotions to a minimum. And I was like, you know what? If it happened to me, it can happen to Connor. So I just
Hmm.
put my head down and went to work, and just started clicking off laps. And I could see a pack in front of me of like 5 or 6 cars. So I'm like, if I can get to them, I know I can work through them. And that's what we did. And coming down to the last lap, I had 2 cars in front of me. I passed the second of those 2 cars in turn, exiting or entering turn 10 of 12 turns at Road Atlanta, and came across the line ninth, I believe.
Yep.
And I'm like, hey, where'd Connor finish? And they're like, oh, he finished, was it sixth or seventh, I think. And
6th, I think.
yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, well, he's got us by, that's a tie with the point situation. He's got us because he's got 4 wins to our 3. So I'm like, okay, well, we finished. We tried our best. We put in value and effort, and we came up a little bit short. That's going through the S's on the cool down lap. Coming out of turn 7, coming down the back stretch, my spotter's like, hey, I have. There's been a penalty handed out to the 33 car. And I'm like, where's he at? He's like, well, he's in front of you, so that's going to move him behind you. I'm like, well, that's it. We win it then. So there was a lot of unsure people, and even the series wasn't sure. They pulled us in the pit lane. They parked both of our cars off to the side, and there's like people coming over to me like saying, hey man, it was a great year. You came, you put up a hell of a race. It was just a little bit short. I'm like, I don't think so. I think we got it. But I didn't want to like get out of my car and start cheering or anything until I heard it officially over the intercom. And sure enough, we were able to just get one more spot there at the end, and that's all it took. It was really, everybody wants to talk about one spot in that final race, but it was really one spot over the entire 22 season.
Yeah, no kidding. It was when I guess when it's that close at the end, you really look back and like micromanage, where every race and sort of what happened in each one of those races. Um, Tell me, in those final 12 minutes, were you getting updates from your crew all the time about where you were at, where Connor was at, or was it very much like a head down, just go and get what you can get and see how it turns out?
It was more or less just heads down, telling me the gaps to the next set of cars that I need to do, and they were like, "Hey, you're pretty fast right now. You just keep clicking off those laps. You're going to catch these guys." I think there might have been a couple mentions of where Connor was, um, but more or less, it was the main task was just go as fast as I can, pass as many cars as I can. Uh, they were giving me, it. Looking back now, that was probably the longest 12 minutes it seemed like of any race I've ever been into because they were giving me updates every, I think, 2 minutes. They're like, hey, there's this much time on the clock left, this much time. You're doing great. Just keep going. Just keep going. And it really slowed down and to me, and it just seemed like it was a really long 12 minutes.
Yeah, I can imagine. And yeah, you wanted it to be a little bit longer though. Try and get past as many of the cars as you as you possibly could. So you mentioned you come into the pits. You still don't really know. You're probably hearing things, and then IMSA calls you guys over. What did it feel like at the point where you were finally confirmed that you're the champion? You've won this.
Yeah, it was really a relief. It was, a lot of stress over the last few months, uh, a range of emotions. I was so happy to be able to not only win as a driver, but a team owner and everything that we'd done over the past, ever since I won the shootout. It's been a building. I've worked, countless hours every single day um, to be able to do that. And it was a lot of validation for what we had done as a team. Um, you know, the crew that we put together, say this is, these guys are a winning organization. As a driver, I never thought I was going to be a professional race car driver. I'd come to the grips with that at a younger age, when I was in my teens, and I knew I didn't have the budget to do it. But, it's kind of been a fairy tale ride since then. And a lot of hard work put into it and getting catching the breaks and being a little lucky here and there. So it was a range of emotions. There was a lot of yelling and screaming and hugging, and it was definitely. I know how hard it is to win championships, and you have to have a lot of things go your way. So to finally take one home at a professional level like that was pretty cool. And along with that comes the paycheck as well.
Very true. Very true. Which I assume going to be put back into operations for the business.
Yeah, definitely. For us, it's opportunity for growth, um, and I'll use as much of it as I need to go back into business. But
Definitely.
yeah, it's that's always kind of been, you know, it's, we're a young business, and
Yeah.
young businesses are they're kind of like a baby, I guess. They need a lot of care in the first few years, so um, whatever it takes. If I need to dump money back into it from earnings and things like that, I definitely will. I have no problem with that because
Yeah.
we're really in this for the long haul, and we just added on our fifth full time employee here in the shop, so
Oh
we're
wow.
growing, and this we're building for the future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, one of the things that I wanted to hear from you is, you're in an elevator with someone who's never heard of or hasn't watched the MX-5 Cup before. What's your elevator pitch for why somebody should be following the Mazda MX-5 Cup?
I mean, it's a lot of guys. They tell us this is the four cylinder NASCAR. It's I think the most exciting racing you can watch here in the U.S. And it's a lot of beating and banging. People love that. People love the close racing. Um, and sometimes you get to see the emotions of the drivers, which is always cool. But everybody likes to see somebody. I think when people run for money and there's money on the line, everybody heightens their skills a little bit. Um, so it is the most exciting racing in North America right now. I think of all Formula Car, being IndyCar, NASCAR. I think it really takes the cake for that. There's big money on the line. There's a lot of rising stars, very talented drivers in this series. I think you're going to see the guys that have been in the series, probably from last year and years to come, are going to be. This has really set itself up to be a stepping stone for later on in their motorsports career. So you're going to see a lot of guys go through here that you're going to hear about in 5 to 10 years. I would say at the top of the top series.
Yeah, it's going to be great to see some of those guys move up, and also some of those guys sticking around for a while too. It's very much a series that you see lots of drivers staying and racing in for years, and I think that's just the sign of a good competitive series that clearly drivers do enjoy racing in as well. So moving on to 2023, I know you mentioned some 5-10 year down the road plans, but 2023 here, of course you're going to be once again running the team, but what are your plans for 2023, and what are the team's plans heading into the 2023 season?
Yeah, first and foremost, obviously that we have a full tent of cars next season for MX-5 Cup. I'll be back in the number 96 car for the 23 season. I mean, how could you not? The
Yeah.
payout even got even more this next season. It's 6,000 to win each race.
True.
So I'm really looking forward to that. But we've also had an expansion where we hasn't been as known, but we have also run a parallel program in World Racing League, which is a more amateur endurance series this season. We've been running that all season with a BMW GT4 car. We just closed that season out 2 weeks ago. We won the East, the Midwest, and the national championship in that. So that was fun. But that program is now turning into a Michelin Pilot Challenge program where we have right now we have 6 events on the schedule, so about a half season.
Okay.
But you never know; it could turn out to be more. We're going to be running a Mercedes AMG GT4 car, and I'll be in that car as well. I'll be co-driving it all season. So we're going to run
Very
Daytona,
nice.
the Roar, and the 24 weekend with that, as well as Sebring, Road America, Indianapolis, and Road Atlanta as of right now.
Very nice, very nice. Well, it should be exciting to see that expansion take place, and having the Michelin Pilot Challenge, another really good series to watch, and looking forward to watching you guys out on track there.
Yeah, I'm super excited. That's we've been working on that for quite a while now, and it's been a lot of work because it is a totally new team with a lot of new people uh, here at JTR. So that keeps me busy. That's why I'm here on a Saturday is just getting
No
ready
kidding.
for that, and I'm super excited. It's kind of the next logical step in sports car racing, and it's always been a great series to watch. I've always watched it, back when it was the Continental Tire Series. As a kid growing up, is when I always watched. So to finally be in that is really exciting, and I'm excited to show what capabilities our team has, and um, show that we can do a little more than just sprint racing.
Definitely, definitely. Well, Jared, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I know you're a busy man, and the season is very fast approaching. So, a big thank you for coming on to the show today, and best of luck in the coming season.
Thank you. It's been great.
Hopefully you enjoyed that chat with Jared just as much as I did. It was a ton of fun catching up with him, and it was great hearing about how the team that he's building up and just the story that he's had over the past few years. If you want to follow along with Jared and his team's journey, you can check out the links to their social media pages down in the show notes. You can learn everything that you need to know about the Mazda Idemitsu MX-5 Cup Series, which is the series that Jared is going to be racing in 2023. Right here. A big thank you to all of our early Patreon supporters. If you too want to support the show, then you can head to patreon.com/offintheesses. Once again, a big thank you for tuning in. I hope everyone has a great race weekend and doesn't go off in the S's.